The Front Street Animal Shelter could not be as successful as they are without community organizations that partner with them in order to save the lives of homeless, neglected, and abused animals. Tonight, we're going to tell you about one of those organizations, Chaco Pit Bull Rescue. Chaco is a pit bull rescue, education, and advocacy group with the goal of helping pit bulls find their fur-ever families. Chaco volunteers come to Front Street to select pit bulls to enroll in PBU, Pit Bull University. What is PBU? Well, stay tuned and find out just how Chaco helps to train, educate, and ultimately help find forever homes for this misunderstood breed. I'm Don Henkel, and this is Shelter Life. Hey everybody, tonight we have the opportunity to talk with some special guests from the Chaco Rescue Organization. With me tonight is Don Kapp, the founder of Chaco, Anna Cambry, and in a little bit you're going to actually meet Elizabeth Dahm as well. For those of you that don't know about Chaco, and there might be a few of those out there, I thought it'd be a really good idea for Don to give us a little history as to what Chaco is and how did it come to be.
Well, Chaco Pit Bull Rescue is a rescue and advocacy group exclusively for pit bulls. And it was founded in 1997-ish, sometime around there when I was in grad school in Texas A&M, and I walked into a shelter because I wanted to adopt a pit bull. I'd grown up with pit bulls. My family had had pit bulls. And now that I was on my own, I wanted to save a dog from a shelter. I was told, sorry, we don't adopt out pit bulls. And I asked them at the time, I was kind of young and naive, and I asked them, well, what do you do when you get them? And the woman behind the counter said, well, we euthanize them. And I asked her, well, what do you do when you get puppies? Certainly you can't euthanize puppies, I thought. She goes, no, we euthanize them. We don't adopt out vicious dogs. And then she asked me, why do you even want a pit bull? Only drug dealers want pit bulls. And I said, well, if you're going to get one that you're going to euthanize, can you just call me? And she said, nope, we can't do that. And then she kind of tilted her head and she goes, what do you mean, like a rescue? And at the time, I really had no idea what a rescue was, but I said, yeah.
Sure.
And she slid a book toward me and she said, okay, put your name and number in the rescue book. And that is how Chaco Pit Bull Rescue got started.
So just by you wanting to get a pit bull and the particular shelter you went to basically said, no, we euthanize them.
That's right. And that was my first introduction to the fact that there were shelters that just would not even give them a chance.
It's really interesting because I think that the pit bull and a pit mix is probably the most misunderstood breeds that there are. I am a proud father of a pitty mix named Hercules, and I love him to death, and I wouldn't trade him for the world. But it's amazing that in this day and age, there still is that misconception. So through Chaco, we have this phenomenal program called PBU, or Pit Bull University. Mm-hmm. What is it, and exactly how did it come to be?
Well, the Pit Bull University program is actually the shelter program that is an offshoot of Chaco, and it was actually started at Front Street in 2005?
2010.
2010, and Elizabeth, it was actually one of the first coordinators. What their goal was to work with the shelter pit bulls to teach them basic training, basic commands, sit, down, stay, and just help them become more adoptable, help also educate a lot of the people that come to the shelter, let them know that, they really are friendly dogs, and, the stigma is usually more hype. Once you get to know them, they're really, really great dogs, and so that's kind of the ongoing goal of PBU, is to kind of shatter some of the stereotypes.
And you do PBU not just at Front Street, you also do it at other shelters as well, right?
There are two PBU programs. There's one at Front Street, and then there's one at County for now.
Very good. Don, that's going to make you proud.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That out of your organization came another training organization to save even more lives, which is ultimately everybody's goal, right? Is to save more lives of the animals. How are the animals really selected for PBU? I mean, because let's be realistic, Front Street has a lot of pits,
Right.
right? We see a
Right.
lot of pits come through the doors at Front Street, and your heart goes out to every single one of them.
Right.
What's kind of the criteria that maybe you and Elizabeth might be able to speak to this
Right.
in a little bit? What do you guys really look for as far as a candidate?
Well, one of the first things we look at is the length of time they've been at the shelter. I mean, we always want to work with dogs that have been sitting there for a while for whatever reason. They're not catching the adopter's eye, so that's one of the first things we look at. Once we narrow it down to a couple of dogs, Elizabeth and I will evaluate them and just, see how trainable they are, if they are motivated either by treats or by toys, because otherwise we won't be able to train them if
Right.
there's nothing to motivate them. So we take that into consideration. We keep it to about 3 to 4 dogs, when we have them in the program. That way it gives all of the volunteers, a chance to work with all of them. And what Elizabeth and I try to do is mix it up so that we try to have dogs that are maybe a little bit more challenged, either, they're pulling on the leash or they need more basic training, and we'll mix that up and maybe have dogs that are a little bit easier to work with so that our volunteers don't get discouraged.
So what's the average time frame? I mean, we can't say a semester,
Right.
but if you look at it in school terms, right?
Right,
I mean, what's
right.
the average term for a dog in PBU?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, I would say most of the dogs during the program, probably 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. And it varies. Sometimes we'll pick a dog and, 2 days later they'll get adopted, especially when the shelter has adoption events going on. And then sometimes we'll have dogs that stay in the program for a couple of months. I mean, I know when I first came on, there was a dog in the program that had already been there about 2 months, and she was in, I think, the program for about 5 months and 7 months at the shelter total. So, and that's unusual, but there are dogs that, will stay there a little bit longer.
So you mentioned volunteers. So obviously there's more than just you and Elizabeth
Yep.
with PBU. About what is the volunteer base?
It varies. We like to have, and we usually have between 10 and 15 volunteers, and they all work in teams of 2. We have a volunteer team. When we're nice and full, we have a volunteer team that come every day. Sometimes even twice a day. We might have a morning shift and an afternoon shift, and they usually stay. The teammates work together. They stay with the same team, but then most of them are pretty flexible too, and they'll fill in for each other. We've got really, really great volunteers, and we have a team that's been with us for almost 3 years, just over 3 years. So.
What's the success rate, right? I mean, once they've gone through the program, are the adoptions, is it a much faster adoption process for those dogs?
I think so, because on top of the shelter volunteers working with the dogs, what we do is we give them extra attention. We get to give them a little bit more one-on-one. When we have teams available every day, that's just extra time for the dogs to become socialized, to work on a little bit more training. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times after we've worked on them a couple of weeks, we'll find out they've been adopted. And
That's ultimately the goal,
Yeah,
is to
yeah.
have them all adopted.
Exactly.
Dawn, is there Chaco throughout the U.S., I mean, throughout other states besides California?
Nope, Chaco's based in California.
It is based in
Yes.
California. If you had your dream wish, would you expand out your organization across the country?
Oh, well, yes. If I had my dream wish, we'd have a large lot of land somewhere that we could use as Pit Bull Rescue Central, so to speak. And
Right.
I'd say probably our advocacy efforts have reached across the United States,
Okay.
because I'm also an attorney. So periodically people will reach out to us for help from other parts of the country when they're facing breed discrimination or breed-specific legislation comes to town, but the rescue is local.
Do you find yourself on the cutting edge of that when breed-specific legislation? Do you pretty much perk up when you hear about a state that wants to ban
Oh,
the breed?
absolutely. In California, we almost had it in 2004. And so during that time, I pretty much lived at the Capitol trying to make sure that a breed ban did not pass or wasn't allowed in California. But yes, every time it happens somewhere, usually, we get contacted, or at least we send out alerts. We don't have the resources to actually send people to every place, but we
Right.
have information. We give people the benefit of our experience. We will share things so that people know what's going on hopefully to help prevent things from passing.
So to backtrack just a little, on PBU, do they get a certificate or a diploma when they graduate?
They don't get an official certificate or diploma, but when the adopters go and fill out the paperwork and check out, they do get paperwork that says they are PBU dogs, and they're also entitled to participate in Chaco's training program, so they can go on.
That was one of the questions I was going to follow up with, is once they're adopted, do you offer more intensified training
yes.
to the people who adopted a pit bull?
We have basic and intermediate obedience classes and a variety of other workshops that we offer to the public, specifically geared toward pit bulls. And so PBU adopters of PBU dogs will get a substantial discount on the basic obedience classes, and they can sign their dog up 50% discount on the classes and continue that training.
Do you find that a lot of the local pet stores are receptive to pit bulls in their stores, not only in the store, but actually in part of their training classes as well? Have you found that Sacramento is becoming a little bit more embracing the pit bull and the pitty mix?
Absolutely. I think most of them are. There are still a couple that might have restrictions on certain parts of their business for the breed, but by and large, I think most of them are receptive.
I think one of the biggest questions that I know I'm asked all the time when I'm walking my dog, because they'll say, what is that? Because he's a mixture of everything, right? But he definitely has his pit in him, is the education aspect, right? How do you guys educate the general public on really the breed itself? Because, you know, I know that there's a lot of times then, Anna, you'll be taking them down to Old Sac and just walking them. Sure. And really, they have little parades, you know, the Chaco Parade and all that. How do you guys reach out to the Joe Blow, general public person, and really try and teach them about the education about this breed? Because I think that's the one thing that I see Chaco doing immensely, is really getting the word out there that what you have read is misconception.
We do it in a variety of ways. You mentioned the parades. We have a variety of walks and parades, but we also have offered through both community centers and Front Street Shelter what we call Pit Bull 101 classes that are free. So anybody can show up, and it's basically a presentation about what is a pit bull, what are the issues surrounding the breed and ownership of the breed, how to be a responsible pit bull owner, questions and answers, really an opportunity for people to just ask all their questions, identifying the common myths associated with pit bulls, those sorts of things. We do booths at various events, you name it, if we're invited, you know, Woofstock, UC Davis Picnic Day, where we have a Kissable booth.
I saw a picture of that on your website, I think.
Yes. We're doing an art show, which is a fundraiser in October, which will have, you know, adoptable dogs there and a lot of education. Books, you know, DVDs on documentary and books on the breed, that sort of thing.
Anna, what about you? What is your passion when it comes to the education part? What is your favorite thing to do?
I think just talking to people, and I think I like to surprise people, because a lot of times people see me and they don't expect me to be the kind of person that, you know, is into pit bulls or would have a pit bull. So it usually starts from there. When I'm walking my dog, you know, people will do the same thing and say, you know, what is that? Oh my gosh, why do you have a pit bull? And I'll say, well, they're really great. And I'll just start talking about the shelter in Chaco. And, you know, one thing I tell everyone, and whenever we have new volunteers, we always say, you know, once you're an owner, you're an advocate. You're always an advocate. You know, when you're out with your dog, you're always advocating for them, because, you know, you're just ready to give information all the time and answer questions.
I think Front Street's done a really good job on really helping to push the educational aspect of it. I think the partnership that PBU and Chaco has with Front Street is stellar, and I could be a little partial, right, because I'm a volunteer at Front Street. But you don't see the dedication, you know, and maybe other shelters are rising to that challenge now. But to see, you know, the dedication that PBU has with Front Street and the volunteers at Front Street as well on that breed is truly amazing. I mean, there are people on my crew here who work with the dogs all the time, and they have this fondness for that breed because it really is a misunderstood breed. How do you market Chaco? Right? How do you get out there in the general public? You said you participate in like any affairs or booths if they ask you to show up. Do you guys have a web page?
We have a web page, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. So basically, yeah, social media has definitely helped us get our message across and let people know that we're here and what we do. And that's, we can't really put a price on that. That is our primary form of communication these days, is through social media.
Social media is definitely how people communicate nowadays. I mean, I can't get the whole character thing going, right? That's just my thumbs. But that really is vital. Is that how you recruit volunteers as well?
We recruit them from social media. We have a meetup where people can sign up, either just to participate in fun walks or volunteer, and we hold orientations. When we have our booths out in the public, we have information, we have sign-up sheets, we have people there they can talk about volunteering. And then a lot of our volunteers come to us because they found a stray pit bull or something, and then they started Googling and they realized, oh, there's Chaco Pit Bull Rescue here, and then they wanted to get involved.
That's great. That's so good. We're going to actually have a live demo, right? So we're actually going to have Elizabeth Dahm, and I think we have Sunny as well, so that's really cool. And you guys are going to show us a little bit of the training that you do. And what I do want to say is, Dawn, thank you so much for spearheading this so many years ago and bringing a positive image to this breed. I'll be the first to admit, if you had asked me 5 years ago, I probably would not have had the positive image I have of a pit bull or a pitty mixed breed now. But after owning one, I can tell you they're the most loving, loyal dogs I've ever had. And I've had quite a few different breeds. And I wouldn't trade Hercules for anything. I would not trade him for anything.
And that smile, I mean, that pitty smile. That's
how can you not? I mean, just in the eyes.
Right. I mean,
we're going to see this. So we're going to come over here. But I did want to say thank you for that. This is Elizabeth Dahm, and she actually is one of the main factors at PBU. And this is Sunny. And as you can see, Sunny is just a beautiful, 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 beautiful dog. And that smile and those ears. So tell us a little bit about what exactly you guys do.
Well, the first thing we do is we are working to socialize the dogs to get them as around people as much as possible. Also, we work to get them to walk nicely on leash, sit, stay, lay down.
Sit.
Those are the basic ones. We work on not jumping. We work on taking treats nicely, giving up toys.
So how long have you had Sunny?
I've had Sunny for 4 years.
Okay.
I adopted him. He was in the Pit Bull University program, and at the time I was a volunteer and not yet a coordinator.
Okay.
And we had worked with him. He had been at the shelter for a little while, about 3 months, I think. And I just fell in love with him, working with him, and could not.
How can you not
bring
fall
him
in love
home.
with that face?
Exactly.
I mean, look at the face.
And
Look
that
at the
happens
face.
to a lot of the volunteers. I mean, most of us end up adopting
Yeah.
a PBU dog.
Right, right. Do you guys find yourself fostering a lot of PBU dogs, or no?
I
had
would
a
say
few.
we don't usually end up
Right.
bringing them home.
Right.
People adopt them.
Yeah.
Right.
Fostering not as much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we just go straight to adopting.
Really?
We don't mess with fostering.
So why don't you show off Sunny a little bit and show us a little
All
bit, if,
right.
if he's not too camera shy. He's very intrigued by all the lights
He
in the
is.
studio, but he's been such a good
All
guy.
right, Sunny,
Such a-
sit. Good boy. We do use treats when we're training. It's a good incentive for them. Some dogs not as interested in treats. In that case, we use a toy, a rope toy, a ball, whatever it is that motivates them. Sunny, sit. Sunny, down. Oh, there you go. Good boy.
Sunny.
All
Sunny.
right, there you go. All right, Sunny, sit. Good boy. He does stay pretty well and come as well. I don't know if we have room to demonstrate that or not, but
Try.
Sunny, stay. All right, good boy. Short stay.
Very good, very good. When it comes to, let's just say you're walking your dog on the street, do you have people go across the other side of the street because you're walking a pit bull?
It has happened,
Yeah.
but I think in recent years, not as much.
I think Sacramento is getting much, much better, and they're much more receptive.
Well, I think a lot of that goes to the advocacy that you guys are doing
Right.
as not only Chaco, but as PBU as well.
I think so.
And really getting, the shelters behind the fact that this is one of the most misunderstood breeds. And to be honest with you, that's really one of the main reasons why we wanted to bring you guys on, is because This is a very misunderstood breed, and the more people see what a loving, look at that face, the loving breed that it is, and they're so loyal. I mean, it's easy for us to talk to it because we all have one, right? And when people actually see a pitty in a home, away from a shelter environment, they get to see how much love and compassion that animal has and how much they really do give back. So I commend you guys so much for what you do. I'm really, really happy that we got to have Chaco on, because this is one of those programs that I think needs a lot more attention and needs a lot more public awareness of what's actually happening. So the more we can actually advocate for you, we definitely will, Dawn, I can tell you that. I can tell you that it's really proud to be associated with an organization who puts a positive light on a beautiful breed. So thank you all for that. And before we wrap it up, I did want to ask Elizabeth, I asked them about the educational part. What do you find, as especially the leader now for PBU, what is the best thing that you do when it comes to education? What is your favorite thing to talk to people about?
My favorite thing to talk to people about is actually the program. I'm always trying to get the next person I speak to volunteer for the program.
Great.
But and I think that people learn the most when they do start volunteering. But the general public, I do just mostly talk about the loyalty and the kindness of these dogs and how goofy they are.
Yeah.
I mean, like goofiness, that'll win your heart every time.
The Joker smile gets me all the time.
Yep.
The Joker smile gets me all the time. Well, I want to thank you all very much. Everybody, if you've got any questions or you want to learn a little bit more about Chaco, go to their website, go to their Facebook page. There's a lot of information back there that you can actually look at and get more information. Maybe become a volunteer. Maybe become a volunteer with PBU as well. I'm sure they'd be glad to have you. Really, education and advocacy and getting the word out there is vital. I'd like to say thank you to my volunteers at Front Street Animal Shelter, the volunteers here at Access Sacramento who actually make this show possible that we actually can bring to you guys. You can always go to our Facebook page, Shelter Life, a TV series on Facebook. You can see past episodes, find out what's happening and coming up down the road. And I highly encourage all of you to go to Front Street itself. You got 2 locations now. You can go to the main mothership Front Street at 2127 Front Street. And please stop by our adoption annex at the Petco off of Arden Way. It's a beautiful annex for adoptions. Over 500 animals have been adopted since it opened in March. Couldn't be prouder about that. And lastly, a thank you to my Shelter Life crew who I could not do this show without. So until next time, I'm Don Henkel, and we'll see you again on Shelter Life.
Hi, my name is Gina Knapp, and I manage the Front Street Animal Shelter for the City of Sacramento. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Shelter Life. As you've seen, our staff and volunteers work incredibly hard to make a difference for the animals in our community. We focus continuously on seeking new and creative ways to save lives. We know that with the support of people just like you, we can make Sacramento a safe haven for the animals that end up in our shelter. We also strive to be innovative, looking for ways to keep pets out of the shelter to begin with. Working together with that mission in mind, great things are possible. Thank you for joining us on this journey.